Hey everyone, welcome back to Lumpy Studio, and today I'm here with a brand new video for you guys. We're going to be recapping and reviewing When Calls the Heart Season 8, Episode 8, titled Changing Times. And I'm here with my mom, Stacey. Thanks for joining me.
Hey guys.
So this is the penultimate episode of Season 8, so I was expecting some sort of big thing, which they did give us at the end, as regards to the love triangle. I thought this wasn't... It was just an okay episode. I don't know. It felt like some things like Rosemary, like whole fall thing was a little bit anticlimactic. The mystery is kind of cool with this whole like the guy who stole like the life savings with these other guys who are who have been cornering like around like the Canfield's old cabin. So it's all like an interesting mystery, although still confusing. But and the whole Carson Faith thing is still disappointing. But what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't even that last moment to me wasn't anticlimactic for me. It was they're one episode from the end of the season and we're still flipping back and forth. So yeah. So it's continued to be a bit of a disappointment for me in that regard. But I mean there was some good things that happened in the episode though, as we'll discuss.
Yeah, some sweet moments.
Yeah.
So I thought a good place to start is talking about Carson Faith to kind of get it out of the way. I think Carson wants to. We kind of left things off with Carson saying that he is going to stay in Hope Valley, and Faith telling him that she doesn't want him to give up his career, like, for her, in order to be with her, which is, of course, is back and forth thing every episode. Faith's mind changes. I mean, she's more in blame for this than Carson, because poor Carson is faced with a difficult decision, and Faith keeps going back and forth on whether she wants him to take it or doesn't want him to take it. Yeah. I mean, I almost felt like they weren't necessarily disagreeing this episode, because Carson was planning on proposing to Faith, but then he thought he lost the ring in the pudding, so then Carson stuck his bare hands into the pudding when Faith walked in. So, what did you think of that?
Weak,
right.
For lack of a better...
Weak writing or weak...
Yeah, weak writing. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't even know what else to say to that. Weak writing.
Well, and then later on, Carson says to Lucas that maybe losing the ring was a sign of us not belonging together. And then later on, Faith talks to Fiona, and she says that she didn't want Carson to propose. So I think we're heading for a breakup next week, and maybe Carson leaving Hope Valley. I don't know. I mean, it'll be a disappointment if Carson leaves, considering, I feel like Faith will need some redemption from this. But I would be sad if he left. And, I mean, even though, like, we're not the biggest fan of them together, I mean, I still thought they had decent chemistry. It's just weird that they took them on this path. Would you agree?
I agree. Yes, I love Carson's backstory of where he came from, where he's at now, but this whole relationship thing is just over the top, and that it took him delving his hands into chocolate pudding to discover maybe that's a sign. Yeah. Yep.
And like I'm assuming there's actual feelings between them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if. I think Carson might have more stronger feelings. I'm just not sure. I want to know more. It just feels like we're only getting the arguing side and not the romantic side. The only romantic thing was earlier in the season where he sang to her on his like guitar. Besides that, we haven't really gotten anything.
Yeah. My prediction is they don't make it. Because if they argue this much as a couple, boy, I hate to see them married.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So next thing I want to talk about was another weak writing moment is that Clara was carrying around a big bag of flour in the cafe, and you were the one who commented on this.
I mean, either she's like a bodybuilder and we're not seeing the muscles, or that was another instance of really poor writing. I mean, nobody just carries a bag of flour that big around. Sorry.
Especially a woman.
Well, and some women could, but... This woman couldn't, and I know, so it seemed rather silly to me.
Yeah, it almost just felt like trying to make you laugh, I guess, but I don't know. But Jesse leaves at the beginning of the episode in Lee's car, and then he disappears. And they find Lee's car later on, but Clara's really stressed out. So
Yeah.
this was also something kind of weird to me, just because it just felt like it came out of nowhere. Like I almost forgot that Jesse even left in Lee's car. I don't. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I guess there was no backstory to that. He just kind of took off in his car, and then all of a sudden he was missing, and we really don't know where he's at once the car was found. And yeah, I don't know. It is kind of was a little weird.
I'm sure we'll find it next week. I'm sure he'll be okay
Yeah.
though, and then him and Clara will confess their love for each other and hopefully move on a better path. um, moving on, I kind of before we get to the mystery side of things, I wanted to talk about Henry gets a letter from Christopher and saying that him and Rachel are happy together, so that's a good thing. I almost thought it would be a letter from Abigail, but I think I wouldn't. That's a little bit too much to ask for, I think. Even though we did get Abigail references recently, but do you think we'll get like do you think Christopher will come back at some point?
Maybe. I mean, they set it up for the possibility, I guess.
Yeah. So Rosemary and Lee, before we get to this whole mystery side of things, they do have a funny moment where like Rosemary's taking possession of Lee's office to do her work, and Lee's frustrated because it's his office, but Rosemary doesn't have any other space to set up, so it's just kind of funny how they're like switching like places all around his office. And then Rosemary's going on this investigation because she's confused in all of these like just this whole like weird thing with like Jesse and Clara's like life savings person. So she goes out to the Canfield's old cabin, and this guy's assistant or whatever like shoots his gun, and the Rosemary's horse spooks and she falls off, and then this guy surrounds her, and then he's what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, he was being very intimidating, very sneaky, and basically, get out of here. This is none of your business, which makes everyone say, huh, what's going on? So, this will be interesting.
Kind of anticlimactic, the whole Rosemary thing, though, with her falling and everything.
It's Rosemary.
We kind of got almost like an old side to Rosemary this episode, which I did kind of like. But by the end, I'm interested to see where her storyline goes, and I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, this guy surrounds her, and he pretty much just says to leave. He doesn't really give much else info. Yeah. And then Nathan comes over, and he tries to talk to them, but they're not budging. So it's just kind of weird, this whole thing. Like, we don't know what these guys are like. We don't know what's going on here, because this other guy visits Fiona again and asks for a cut, and he kind of like intimidates her, saying that like he's gonna buy the barber shop from her, and then so she orders him to leave, which was good for Fiona. And then this guy sets up a meeting with all the men in town, hoping to talk about some business, but then Nathan like arrests him before he can do that. So it's just like these like guys, because it looks like they're connected by the end. I don't know what it's supposed to mean, like what it'll mean for like this like season finale. Do you have any idea what this all means?
Not really. Just, some bad guys, and maybe Nathan's going to save the day, and yeah.
I mean, I want to know more about like this whole like thing with like the life savings thing. I'm hoping next week we'll actually get like a conversation about that.
And that could be over, because he did give it back.
Yeah, he did give the money back.
Yeah, we don't have clarity on that though. Why and.
So yeah, it'll just be interesting. Like, how are the Pinkertons? I guess is the name of these people who were like surrounding like the cabin, and they're just like almost like sleeping there. Almost, it seems like they're just like blocking anyone from coming off. So maybe they're hiding something. I don't know. I don't know. It's just kind of confusing, because it just kind of seems like this mystery almost came out of like nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, suddenly, like, I thought we went from like this whole life savings thing to now these Pinkertons like surrounding like a cabin. It's just kind of weird how it got set up.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Rosemary mentioning something about real estate, people buying real estate. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It is peculiar.
We did get a little interaction between Nathan and Fiona, and Twitter was like, maybe like if Elizabeth chooses Lucas, then Nathan and Fiona will get together. But I would rather have Fiona and Hickam together than Nathan and Fiona.
Definitely.
But I guess it's a normal scenario for Fiona to go to Nathan about this guy. So
he's the sheriff. He's the Mountie.
Yeah. So Rosemary decides that her calling is to restart the town paper. So what did you think of that for her?
Loved it. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
perfect for her. I'm glad she's going to find her calling, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll be good for her.
Yeah,
So
it took her 11 episodes.
yeah,
I'm wondering if like maybe like season 8 will end with her in with like some like a big step for them because I thought all season they were going to adopt. I guess I thought it would happen by now, but maybe like they'll maybe talk about that next week. But there hasn't like been like a word out their mouth about that, so I
no,
don't know. I don't know. Do you think they might go in that direction?
you know, not necessarily. I mean, this could be her thing.
Yeah.
So
Hmm. I don't know. I think that was something that we hoped though.
hmm
I mean, maybe like Christmas special or something like that. They do one. They can
hmm
maybe try to explore that. I mean, I guess they'll be able to go to Brookfield and maybe get one from the orphanage and Winkle Calls.
yeah,
If that was something they were going to tie in as like a little crossover.
hmm
Um. So yeah, Elizabeth and Rosemary are kind of on speaking terms now, though Elizabeth still hasn't apologized, which is still frustrating. Um. Hopefully, I'm sure next week we'll get a conversation with them. And then there's this whole Elizabeth and Mr. Alandis storyline, which is just kind of creepy because this guy's kind of creepy and
hmm
he's kind of like almost like following her around. And his whole thing is like, it's a lot of like trying to like add more students into what Elizabeth can handle because he has some sort of grudge against Elizabeth. But I think it's more so that the fact that she needs credibility to teach Angela, which is true.
yeah,
I mean, I think that you can't like she can't get out of that situation. She needs to be credible to teach her how to. I mean, they are learning together, but technically she does need the credibility. But I don't know if I don't think this guy has like any grudge against like Angela Canfield. I don't think so. But
mm
what did you think of this whole storyline?
yeah. He's I think has students his best their best interest at heart, but it's once again it's someone who may have started off with good intentions, but has allowed the business, the politics of education to get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's like really nitpicking and following these rules to a T and enforcing them. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and unfortunately, as a teacher, my background being a teacher, you can't do that. It just the whole politics stuff that when it gets in the way, the teaching does no longer happens.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that Elizabeth gets to like keep her job as a teacher.
Yes,
I'm
he
sure.
seems to be threatening it though, so we'll
Mhm.
see.
Yeah. And then I wanted to say that Bill and Elizabeth have like some interactions here. Bill's gonna try to save Elizabeth until before this goes to court. So I wonder if that'll be something coming up. If that'll be explored. I mean, I'm assuming it will. It's kind of like a weird storyline. I mean, I guess like, it's so like Angela Canfield can be like included more, I guess, and for her to like get like that like learning. I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping that's like what they're trying to do here, just with a lot of obstacles, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joseph Canfield wasn't really in this episode.
Mm-mm.
Neither was Minnie really, except at the cafe. And Fiona also makes a call to San Francisco towards the end. I don't know what that's supposed to mean,
Mm-mm.
but
Like secretive though.
yeah, a lot of unknown things this episode. It feels like I don't know. It feels like the season finale has to be big and ties things up because normally a penultimate episode would start to tie things up more. But still feel like it's almost going like slower pace still. Just a surprise. I think the tone of the season has just been kind of off. I mean, I think it's still been good, decent writing in certain storylines,
Yeah.
but something's just off with the tone of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to the love triangle. Elizabeth and Nathan have been growing closer. Nathan even stops by to visit her house, and Lucas sees that Nathan's over there and he drives away. And they share a warm moment where Elizabeth puts on Nathan's surge.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely see that there's feelings there.
Definitely.
So later on, Lucas is like helping, is trying to talk to Elizabeth and see if she wants to go out for lunch. And then she tells him that we found out that she left the wedding after her whole conversation with Nathan, and she didn't tell Lucas. So obviously Lucas was upset about the whole situation because he saw the moment and then he didn't get to see Elizabeth. So I think he has a right to be upset. So yeah, she told him the truth, and then their whole conversation got interrupted. So later on, we kind of see that Elizabeth and Nathan are kind of flirting with each other, and then Lucas like watches from like afar and I don't know. I just feel bad for Lucas because it's not any of his fault that like this relationship is like falling apart. Like he's done everything right. It's just Elizabeth's confusion.
Yeah.
So I just do feel bad for him. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it's not like Nathan's like in the wrong here either. It's just Elizabeth. And I feel like we shouldn't hate on her too much. But
She just has her. She's just confused.
yeah, which I guess it's fair. I mean, she's in like a love triangle, but it's still just kind of like just tiring. Um, and then by the end of the episode, we kind of get where Lucas sets Elizabeth free to like explore something with Nathan, or just so if she wants to do something with Nathan, that he's not holding her back, is what he's trying to say. And then Elizabeth doesn't even try to stop him, and Lucas just walks off. So what did you think of that whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, Nathan's pretty much like, I see there's something maybe there.
You mean
So
Lucas?
Lucas, I'm sorry. And so he's like, I'm giving you the opportunity to figure this out. 'Cause I'm not going to keep saying we're dating while you're looking like you're pining over Nathan. So, yeah, so he sets her free. And she stands there with her mouth kind of hanging open, not saying a word. So,
Yeah, or, well, like, my dad, he's actually been, like, glancing at the TV every once in a while, and he's like, she's a good actress, but he feels like she has the same facial expression all the time, which is kind of true. I mean, she has, like, this, like, it's almost like what is going on inside of her mind kind of look on her face all the time, because I would want to know. But I think final predictions for who she's going to choose hopefully won't end on a cliffhanger next week. But I personally think she's going to choose Nathan, because I feel like that whole scene with Lucas is just setting it up for Elizabeth and Nathan reunion / love confession, but not necessarily. That could drive Elizabeth closer to Lucas, and we just don't know what's going to happen, because it feels like next week's going to be jam-packed. But what do you think's going to happen with that?
We talked about this earlier. I really don't know. I mean, maybe she'll choose Nathan, but maybe she'll choose Lucas. I think I'm just kind of up in the air on this one.
Yeah, I mean, we see in the promo that she takes the wedding ring off, so I'm assuming that'll be a pretty big moment. And they actually released that on the sneak peek already, like the official scene with her taking the ring off, which is kind of weird. But I guess we'll just have to see next week. I mean, I'm personally excited, although I guess I don't know what expectations I have, just because there's so many storylines that I'm just not like fully invested in. So it'll just be interesting to see it wrap up. But anyways, anything else you want to say before we close?
Let's just touch briefly on Florence and Ned.
Oh yeah, they're not well.
It's weird, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I have thoughts on it, but it was just like, so they came back from their honeymoon, but she's the only one that come back. So yeah, I'll be curious to see what's going on with that.
Well, I feel like there's been like certain situations in shows where, like the bride or the groom doesn't come back from the honeymoon, and that typically means trouble. But I'm sure they'll be reunited.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. If they're not, and this was just a short-lived thing, I don't know what I would think about that.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird. So yeah, but hopefully. Anyways, yeah.
So yeah, we'll be back next week to talk about the season finale of The Heart Season 8. So anyways, thanks everyone for watching the studio. Like, comment, subscribe, turn your post notifications so you never miss a video. Thanks everyone for watching, and bye.